He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
America, Mark Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. You know, 3 hours on radio may seem like a long time. It's really not. And so sometimes I lead with information or discussions or stories or whatever. Now you might say, why is he leading with that? Because I don't follow the crowd. Because sometimes I think there are things more important than the media looping the same story over and over and over and over again. And to give you an update on the looped stories. I'm a big critic of the media. I think there are so many wonderful opportunities, whether it's visual, whether it's simply oral in any respect, to really contribute to the well-being of society with actual facts and information and knowledge. And you make the final decision. Now, some of you are going to be very upset with what I'm going to say. As far as I know, my wife might be very upset with what I'm going to say because I made a decision 10 minutes ago to lead with this story. And I've been working on this program all day long. And yet, I came across this. At the Free Press, which is a great site. And you don't have to always agree with everything in the Free Press, but it's very well done. Barry Weiss's operation. And it's entitled In Defense of Processed Foods. Now, before I get to this, I've talked to you before about processed foods, and that without processed foods, about 100 years ago, people would have starved. You know, we talk about organic food now or fresh fruit and that sort of thing. What happened in the early 1900s and decades later, the population moved heavily from rural and more sparse areas into the cities. There was huge mobility and movement of people to try and get jobs. And that includes immigration and so forth and so on. So you had slums that were created and housing projects. People were really dirt poor, but this is the way they could find jobs, they felt. But there was no way to put fresh food, freshly butchered beef. Beef would get rancid, but people couldn't afford to throw it away. They would eat it. They'd eat other stuff that had chemicals on it, not chemicals through the processing of it, but people themselves would put chemicals on it, not knowing how bad they were. And you had significant instances of stomach cancer and so forth, dysentery. I haven't even read this entire article. Part of it I'm going to read newly to myself and to you, but that's how Heinz ketchup came to be. Heinz was a simple man. He mortgaged his home to develop a beef sauce. And his first product went nowhere. So he went broke. Then he had another idea. This time it would be tomato-based. And he'd put it in a clear glass bottle so people could see what they were buying and what they'd be using. Well, that took off because it hid the flavor of the rancid beef. Fish. They didn't have freezers. The kind of freezers we're talking about weren't even invented yet, but most of people couldn't afford it if they were. They barely had refrigeration. So fish, if you caught it, you had to eat it pretty quickly. Pretty quickly. Things like milk would sour very quickly. So the problem was you had a concentration of people, particularly in the inner cities, huge concentration of people, and there was no food. And to the extent there was food, it was very expensive in the context of those days. And it didn't last long. The transport of the food didn't last long. That's where processed foods came in and were invented and fed at least 2 generations of Americans. Now, that's where I'm coming from. Now, let's read this by Professors Jan Adukowitz and Gabriel Rosenberg. And this is an excerpt from a new book that they wrote called Feed the People, Why Industrial Food is Good and How to Make It Even Better. And the introduction to this by the Free Press is the following. Processed foods have become the go-to villain in America's health story. Picture the packages crowding supermarket aisles, frozen dinners, canned food, soda, chips. They're packed with preservatives and additives and often blamed, especially by champions of the Make American Healthy agenda, for soaring rates of obesity, chronic disease, and it goes on. But just how harmful are they really? That's the central question in this new book. And in this excerpt, these professors contend that processed foods, even ultra-processed ones, aren't the dietary demons many make them out to be. And today's calls to purge them entirely and quote-unquote eat clean, they suggest, offer no magic fix. In fact, such advice even might leave the situation worse. Now let's get to the content of the book in some respect, and I figure this might interest all of you, actually. So I'm reading this anew for you and me. In 1929, the canned meat company Libby, McNeil and Libby, printed a now legendary pumpkin pie recipe on the side of the cans of its 100% pure pumpkin. 1929. It was an enormous hit, and pumpkin pie became a national superstar. But the can's branding wasn't quite accurate, and still isn't. According to the FDA regulations, the contents of a can of pumpkin can be made of a variety of squashes that we don't conventionally call pumpkins. And in fact, most canned pumpkin you've ever eaten is probably something called a Dixon squash. Apologies if you're a pumpkin purist, but if you are, and you just found this out, what's the alternative? Roasting and pureeing a pumpkin yourself? That's a bad idea. Store-bought pumpkins don't have the right starch or water content for the custard. Go to any bakery or grocery the week before Thanksgiving and ask them what they use for their pies, and they'll tell you the truth. It's from the can. Now here's the good news. The industry goo is great. To this day, the only ingredient in Libby's canned pumpkin is a mush of assorted squashes. They take millions of gourds grown on an astonishing scale, peel, seed, and puree them, cram that puree into shell-stable aluminum cans, and ship them off to grocery stores by the truckload. The stuff in these cans is nutritionally identical to a fresh pumpkin or squash, if you will. Moreover, it will sit safely on your shelf for 900 days or more without spoiling. Meanwhile, fresh pumpkins, as you will recall from your front step after Halloween, they tend to rot after a week or so. Now, what's the point of all this? Well, the point is I need to put my glasses on because I can't read this. Just hang with me. Hang with me. This is all very interesting to me, and I think to you, perhaps. What's the point of all this, you ask? The point is that we have been trained to think of particular foods as good or bad, or even noble and sinful. So-called processed foods, those made with preservatives or other chemicals, and which often come in a can, usually fall into the latter category as sinful. It's not difficult to find people deriding whole categories of industrial foods as an unmitigated menace. But like pumpkin pie, the truth is a bit more complicated. In his 2008 book, In Defense of Food, journalist and professor Michael Pollan famously instructed people to do the following, quote, "Don't eat anything your great-great-grandmother wouldn't recognize as food," unquote. It's a common refrain intended as an indictment of a modern nutrition system dominated by artificial ingredients. But it ignores a glaring truth. Our great-great-grandmothers didn't exactly live at a time of peak nutrition. They didn't have electricity or running water. They wouldn't recognize a box of fusilli or, for that matter, a mango as food. In their old world, there were no refrigerators in homes, no frozen foods, canning was a crapshoot, and there were no supermarkets, let alone an FDA to make sure your flour, butter, and milk were unadulterated. The result was illness, what I was touching on earlier. Foodborne diseases like typhoid fever, botulism were common. Even more ubiquitous were diseases caused by malnutrition. Rickets, a debilitating childhood condition caused by vitamin D deficiency, led to bowed legs, stunted growth, curved spines. These are just the ones whose name you may recognize. Ever hear of marasmus? Be glad if you didn't. Thanks in part to poor food, our great-great-grandmother society was chronically unhealthy. In New York City in 1920, up to 75% of all children were to some degree affected by rickets. Average life expectancy in 1900 was 47 years. When the United States initiated a draft during World War I, about 30% of the men who were called up were deemed unfit for combat, largely because of poor health attributable to dreadful nutrition. The solution was a better diet offered by, yes, food processing. Pasteurization of milk, originally developed in the 1860s and adopted at a scale in the early 20th century, has saved countless millions of infants and babies' lives by eliminating dangerous pathogens. Preservation techniques like canning prolonged the shelf life of many foods, improving food access and reducing food waste from spoilage. These changes came alongside the emergence of a modern regulatory state ensuring foods met new standards of health. Meanwhile, advances in transportation and refrigeration technology in the early 20th century gave birth to a radical new way to buy food, the supermarket, which improved the quality and safety of food for most consumers. Interesting, Mr. Producer? Synthetic preservatives may be to some extent unhealthy, but compare them to the common adulterants found in the swill milk of 19th century New York City that sickened thousands of children. Rotten eggs are arguably more natural than potassium sorbate, a common anti-mold preservative found in today's dairy products, but we would rather eat the potassium sorbate. It's only when you take for granted that your diet won't immediately kill you that you begin to ponder whether it might contribute to cancer or heart disease in a few decades. Now, I want to continue this. I think it's very important, and I'll tell you why when I'm done with the article, but this is very, very important for a variety of reasons. We'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
We only have 2 minutes this segment. I want to continue this after the bottom of the hour so it's coherent. But I want to thank you folks in the audience here. You know, my main hub, the core of everything, is radio. Conservative talk radio. It's my love. But we get our numbers every week on Saturday and Sunday from Fox, on my show, overall, and so forth. And my numbers on Saturday for my Life, Liberty, and Levin program were 30% higher than a year ago. And they were huge a year ago. And my numbers on Sunday were 25% higher than they were a year ago, despite the NBA All-Star game and all the rest. And that's thanks to you. And we have a very vigorous audience here, you, in radio. And I want to thank you on this video podcast that I've launched. Those of you who've taken the time to view it, you've made a huge difference. I'm not going to go south. I'm not going to do the stuff that gets all the hits and the grifters and all the rest. There are millions and millions of viewers. I'm not going to do it. We will slowly build this program, this video podcast, and we will show that the American people want intelligent information. And today's program on Liberty's Voice is number one about Rush Limbaugh, passed away 5 years and 1 day ago, and I give some personal stories. I don't speak out of school, but things I haven't discussed before. And also I lay out the situation in Iran, the armaments and the situation. And tomorrow's program, I'm going to get back to the founding, the 250th year. We'll dig deeper, as I want to do throughout the course of this year. Just go to YouTube. It's Liberty's Voice. You can subscribe there. Go to Rumble. And that would be at Mark Levin Show, and follow. But view us. Take a look. We'll be back.
The new American Revolution starts here. The Mark Levin Show. Call in at 877-381-3811.
I got a request and then a video from somebody I care about a lot, who I respect a lot, who's been through hell, Dennis Prager. And he has a book coming out next Tuesday, and he wanted me to have the first exclusive interview on Sunday on Fox. And I said, of course, and he sent me a video. And this is a remarkable human being, both physically and mentally. And I very much look forward to having him on Life, Liberty, and Levin on Sunday as our second guest. Our first guest Sunday will be America's Governor, Ron DeSantis. I can never get enough of him. He's great. And on Saturday, we're going to have Stephen Moore, because the economy is actually doing well and is about to explode into prosperity. And with the State of the Union coming up, I think it's important that we hear from Steve Moore, one of the best. And Rich Goldberg, certainly one of the best when it comes to Iran. So we have our programs lined up. Obviously, I haven't done them yet. And I will be doing my monologues for those as well. So we're very, very busy here with our sort of interlocking platforms and formats from radio, TV, and video podcasting. The only other thing I could do, Mr. Producer, is get a soapbox, stick it in the middle of the park down the street, and scream at the top of my lungs. Which maybe I'll do, you never know. But again, I want to thank you. I noticed some other people are launching a podcast all of a sudden, too, and that's good. More the merrier. And I want to thank Rumble, Chris, the majority owner over there. They've been nothing but completely supportive of Liberty's Voice. You can go over to Rumble, Liberty's Voice, YouTube, Liberty's Voice. We're working on now getting on Apple and Spotify. It's just a slow process. I have a very small staff. It's self-funded, and everybody's working very, very hard. Again, tomorrow's program will be back onto our history, and I want everybody to understand it, and I try and go deep into that. And today's program is fantastic, so I want to encourage all Levinites, all patriots, to view it, to check it out. Back to this article. As they pointed out, the two professors, it's only when you take for granted that your diet won't immediately kill you that you begin to ponder whether it might contribute to cancer or heart disease in a few decades. Now, of course, those worries are legitimate as well. By solving the problems of scarcity, the modern food system has created problems of abundance. Problems of abundance. The processed food we eat now contributes to an epidemic of non-communicable diseases, ranging from obesity to diabetes to heart problems. 40% of American adults are obese. 9% of the U.S. population is being diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, and another 38% of the adult population is pre-diabetic. The direct healthcare costs of these ailments run to around $600 billion annually. We're not a healthy society, and as a result, eaters are frequently overwhelmed by both choices of foods and messages about what to eat. Many have embraced diets peddled by flim-flam health influencers that are hard to follow for very long and are not particularly healthy. Gwyneth Paltrow, for example, has told her millions of followers that her ideal lunch consists of bone broth. One 21-day program promoted by Paltrow and other so-called wellness influencers tells eaters to avoid oranges and shellfish, soy, and soy-derived products, almonds, and barbecue sauce. Meanwhile, a growing body of self-anointed fitness and diet experts, including the podcaster Joe Rogan, advocate for a virtually all-meat carnivore diet, one that cuts out the sugars necessary for, among other things, proper cognitive function. Flawed dietary advice has even reached the government. They talk about, let's see here, where they heavily emphasize natural foods, quote unquote, as a means to combat our diseases of affluence. But our great grannies would think little of the people today who turn their backs on modern food safety, such as the rising number of people flocking to raw milk. Raw milk, as they knew, is a reservoir of diseases, and in recent years has been linked to dozens of salmonella outbreaks. There are few things more irrational than turning your back on over a century of food safety advances to purposely take risks with your and your kids' health in the name of eating more so-called natural foods. And they go on. But this is the reality of the modern era. To look at the American food landscape is to be assailed by thousands of messages about food. Some of the best and simplest dietary advice winds up drowned out by websites, social media posts, blogs, podcasts, and books pushing complicated and often bad advice. And so now we have a $90 billion U.S. weight loss and diet industry that largely peddles information and diets that are not based on solid, peer-reviewed evidence. And when fad diets fall, as they almost invariably do, eaters find themselves right back where they started, only poorer for all the money that they spend on supplements and branded health foods. So what should we eat? And how can we preserve the tastiness and the efficiency and affordability and safety and availability and nutritional quality that industrial processing can provide without exposing eaters to harmful side effects? According to Nutrition experts at Tufts University, world-renowned Friedman School of Nutrition, Society, and Policy, a good, affordable diet for most consumers entails the polar opposite of what most health influencers and culinary naturalists argue. Taking advantage of high-quality industrial foods, not shunning them. In fact, a tendency to shun high-quality industrial foods and consequently making your diet narrow, rigid, and impracticable may be one reason that so many dieters belly flop. Moreover, contrary to a number of widely publicized studies, many ultra-processed foods are not unhealthy in and of themselves. Consider one study published in the prestigious British Medical Journal. I don't know, do we want to take food advice from the British? No offense, Mr. Producer, I'm just saying. Which used data from a large cohort of Americans to assess the links between diets and health outcomes. The widely reported top-line finding was that those participants who ate a diet high in ultra-processed foods, UPFs, had a slightly higher mortality rate than those who didn't. Scary, but dig a little deeper, and in fact, the correlation between ultra-processing and mortality was statistically significant only for processed meat and seafood, as well as sugary drinks, cereals, and desserts. All the others made no statistically significant contribution. The study merely confirmed what we have known for decades. Too much meat, especially red and cured meats, and too much sugar are bad for your health. There is, however, one very important study that gives hints about why and which processed foods can be bad for our health. In an experiment, nutritionist Kevin Hall gave two groups of people two diets, one with no processed and the other with 80% processed. Dieters were responsible for moderating food intake themselves, and the processed gobbling group gained weight. Why? They tended to eat 500 calories more per day than the other group. That's because the processed foods tended to be addictively crispy and crunchy, meaning that they went down too quickly or in higher quantities than people might otherwise have eaten them. And here we get to the problem with processed foods. It's mostly not the ultra-processing itself that's the problem. Rather, it's that ultra-processed foods can be extremely tasty, easy to eat, convenient vehicles for unhealthy ingredients. So here's the takeaway. It's worthwhile to moderate processed intake, especially when those processed foods are processed meats or high in sugar or salt. But completely eliminating processed foods, or junk food for that matter, from your diet will no more guarantee health than eating them in light moderation will kill you. Don't let the fear-mongering about so-called bad foods in the way of following basic advice about a healthy diet or make you second-guess your fortified packaged bread, peanut butter, or frozen bean burrito. There's no reason to use processing and ultra-processing or unnatural or industrial as a shorthand for bad. And in fact, doing so would unnecessarily deprive us of a great many culinary joys. For example, if you ask Bostonians to name the best bagel in the city, many of them will refer you to Bagel Guild, nestled in Boston Public Market. But here's the thing about the breakfast they might miss. It is a happy product of modern food technology and industrial processing. The wheat in that bagel is likely a crossbreed grown as a monocrop, milled in a factory, fortified with minerals and vitamins, and shipped thousands of miles. It's baked in a bakery that follows strict health regulations imposed by the city of Boston and the great state of Massachusetts. The cream cheese, reconstituted pasteurized milk product mixed with carabine gum and potassium sorbate. The lox, safe packaging and a refrigerated cold chain mean you're not thinking about spoiling the foodborne diseases. opting for the vegan schmear, soybean oil, and soy protein isolate with a dash of added sugar. The coffee, it's grown in Central America, industrially roasted and processed, shipped in bulk over thousands of miles. The oat milk, well, oats, rapeseed oil, and added vitamins and minerals. Only you don't think about it that way. And you shouldn't. It's delicious, it's healthy, and it's cheap. And you wouldn't think twice about whether it was safe or indeed if there would be bagels available today or not. That is because of the unseen beneficence of modern food technology and processing. Think twice the next time someone insists otherwise. Now, that may open your eyes to a lot of things. In other words, there's bad food and there's good food, but it doesn't mean that processed food or even ultra-processed food is bad for you. It depends what kind of food it is. If it's heavy in sugar, that's a problem. If it's heavy in salt, that's a problem. But that's with natural foods or processed foods. That's the point. The point is the main ingredients. Does that make you feel better, Mr. Producer? It should. Because without processed foods or ultra-processed foods, many of us would starve to death. Or we'd have nutritional issues. We would be malnourished. Or we would lack the kind of vitamins and minerals that we need. You look at Swanson Foods. Where did that come from? No, not Tucker Carlson. Nothing came from him except a lot of bloviated gas. No. This was a man who was a fisherman. And he would catch fish by himself. He had a cabin. He would hang the fish. And he would have to consume the fish. He couldn't really transport it. Could barely bring it home to his family. And he got the idea because he was fishing one season, and it was winter. And it was very cold. And guess what he did, Mr. Producer? He put the fish in the snowy ice. And he noticed that it preserved the fish. Along came the invention of the freezer. After that, the invention of freezer train cars. After that, the invention of freezer trucks. And then came frozen food. Wait, we can freeze fish, but we can freeze peas, we can freeze green beans. Wait, we can freeze meat. Then later, advance, we can freeze pre-cooked meals. And frozen food was all a hit. And it fed a ton of people and kept them alive. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
During the break, ladies and gentlemen, go ahead to YouTube, subscribe to Liberty's Voice, go to Rumble, and follow us at The Mark Levin Show. And make sure when the program's over, you view the podcast. You're going to love it. We'll be right back. This segment of the podcast is exclusively sponsored by Pure Talk. Pure Talk offers great coverage and can save your family money on your wireless bill every single month. Go to puretalk.com to find the plan that's right for you. Thank you again for listening, and thank you so much for this sponsorship, Pure Talk.
He's here. He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Helps if I put the microphone on. I make quasi-professional. Hello, America. I am Mark Levin. Our number 877-381-3811. 877-381-3811. The United States military, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but is prepared now to hit Iran this weekend, late this weekend on Sunday if necessary, or any time thereafter. And I want to say something to our military personnel. At a time like this, I find it odd and troubling that people don't talk about you. They don't thank you. I think about you all the time, and I want to thank you as I thank you every evening. The truth is that while we praise illegal aliens, that while we bend over backwards to protect criminals, while we talk about concocted rights as opposed to real civil liberties, while we coddle Islamists who want to destroy our country and our culture, while we talk about the First Amendment rights of Marxists, we don't talk a whole lot about our military personnel, do we? And what they do for us. All the things that go on in the country. They protect us from all these outside threats and forces. These are men and women who get paid peanuts. Peanuts. And they get to go to a PX, or maybe they have a VA, or maybe they have a hospital or a pension and so forth. Big deal. Big deal. Is that good enough for most of us? No, because most of us don't join the military. Now, I've many family members, but we don't, do we? Our military personnel deserve our respect and our gratitude. Because it is they who are going to take action if action is called for by the Commander-in-Chief, not just to protect this generation, but future generations. From the Iranian Islamist Nazi regime that is desperate to develop weapons of mass destruction and drop them on our heads. So they have said, so they have tried. Now, you and I, Mr. and Mrs. America, we support our military personnel. The Marxists do not. The Islamists hate them. The woke right, neo-Nazis hate them too. But they, in a diabolical way, they pretend to be looking out for them, to protect them, and they're not. They're isolationists who give aid and comfort to the enemy. The enemy's counting on Tucker Carlson. The enemy's counting on Marjorie Trader Greene. The enemy's counting on bloated Bannon. The enemy's counted on No Pants Gates, and I can go down the list. They're counting on the modern-day Tokyo Roses to dispirit our military, to dispirit the American people generally, and to dispirit you, patriots. Isolationism in the face of evil Islamism, evil communism, evil fascism is suicide. Absolute suicide. I want our military personnel to know something. The Marxist Islamists, the woke Reich, R-E-I-C-H, neo-Nazis and fascists, Isolationists, they don't represent the vast majority of the American people. They simply do not. We, you, Mr. and Mrs. America, we are the vast majority of the American people. And I want you to know, I feel fairly strongly that we will be taking it to that regime in Iran, as we must. For the sake of our country, for the sake of our children, for the sake of the Iranian people, for the sake of humanity. And it'll be thanks to you in the military. Trained, competent, courageous, smart, that we're able to do this. Even with the greatest equipment in the world. It doesn't mean a whole lot without our military personnel. I could not be prouder. So when you see somebody who's dressed in military garb, a uniform, please make sure you thank them. Thank them. I want to speak briefly about law enforcement. Whether they be beat cops, or detectives, special agents, Border Patrol, ICE, state troopers. You know who I mean. They deserve our thanks. When there are violent riots in the streets, we rely on them to help us and protect us. When there are marauders out there, killers, rapists, burglars, what have you, we rely on them. We pick up the phone and we call them. We don't call a politician. We don't call a reporter. And in my lifetime, I've seen efforts by the radical left and the revolutionaries to pick off one element within law enforcement or another. NYPD, the LAPD, Minnesota cops, Minneapolis, the Border Patrol, ICE, the FBI, the marshals, and on and on and on. I've seen it. The same elements that treat illegal aliens as citizens. The same elements that treat criminals as the victims and are weak on crime are the ones who attack the cops. Local, state, and federal. These people put their lives on the line, and when they pull a gun out, they don't know if they're going to destroy their lives and careers or not. And they have split seconds to make a decision. I've often thought, if I'm in a police cruiser, I'm a cop, and I pull over a car that has a broken taillight or an expired license tag or something. You pull that car over, you don't know what the hell's in that car. You don't have the foggiest idea what's in that car. Even if you call in the tag number, you don't know who's driving that car. You don't know who's in that car. You don't know if they have a weapon in that car. You literally put your life on the line when you get out of your vehicle and walk up to that car. Maybe they were speeding, driving erratically, who knows? You put your life on the line. Some SOB could pull a gun from under the seat, and before the officer knows it, shoot him through the window. It happens, doesn't it? And then I want to make one final point. We spend an awful lot of time with news reports on individuals who may have been killed by law enforcement, who were provocative, who were violent, who were obstructing. A lot of time. Do you know the name of the last police officer in this country who was murdered? Unless you look it up, you don't know. Because as a national news matter, it doesn't even matter anymore. It doesn't even matter anymore. It matters to us, but not to the media. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
You know what Pure Talk's favorite holiday is? President's Day. Because they believe wireless service should only cost you a couple of presidents. Just a Jackson and a Lincoln, to be exact. For $25 a month, Pure Talk gives you unlimited talk, text, plenty of data. Now compare that to Big Wireless. They'd rather celebrate Benjamin Franklin Day so they can charge your family hundreds every month, and he wasn't even a president. That's not right. You deserve better. Pure Talk is an American wireless company that supports our veterans and invests in a U.S.-only customer service team. When you call, you're talking to someone right here at home. Pure Talk uses the same towers as the big carriers, so enjoy superior 5G coverage without the inflated price. Just $25 a month for talk, text, plenty of data, no contract, no cancellation fee. Don't wait any longer, folks. Go to puretalk.com/Levin, puretalk.com/Levin. You'll get 50% off your first month. Again, that's puretalk.com/Levin to make the switch to Pure Talk. All right. Let's make a deal. Where's Monty Hall when you need him, Mr. Producer? Remember that show, Let's Make a Deal? Dating myself. It was a great show. I remember as a kid being sick. It's one of the shows I love to watch. Monty Hall, Let's Make a Deal. You know, the Yiddish version of that is Let's Make a Schlemiel. Did you know that? Did you know that, Mr. Producer? By the way, can you open your microphone for a second? Rich Cementa.
Yes.
You're Catholic, aren't you?
I am.
Well, I was accused by Broomhilda, a.k.a. Megan Kelly, of hating Catholics.
No.
It's very bizarre. And you hate Christians, and you hate... Very weird.
Very
I love
stupid
Catholics.
accusation.
I love Christians. Now, you're a Catholic.
Yep.
Do I hate you?
No, not at all.
I love you.
Love you too, brother.
How long have you been my producer?
22, 23 years?
22,
Long
23
time.
years. Almost from day one, right?
Basically.
Well, we have call screeners from time to time, right?
Yep.
Some of them been Catholic?
Yes.
Yes, indeed. Wow. How do you like that? How do you like that? By the way, I don't think I've ever had a Jewish call screener, have I? I don't know. I don't look at the world this way. But it's very weird. I'm fighting Islamists, not Muslims, Islamists. And these... Can I tell you something, folks? I've been doing this video podcast now for 2 days. It takes time to build a viewership. It's a slow process. But the way to build the fastest viewership is to say the most grotesque, racist, bigoted, Jew-hating, Christian-hating, American-hating things. I could get to 1 million viewers if I spend the next 5 days doing that. But you lose all self-respect. And your children have to live with you. When somebody is on a podcast and they're dropping F-bombs left and right, that shows you that they're real scum. Do you want to be around a person who does that? Do you want to be around a person who does it in front of your children? Or in front of her children? And they think that's cool? What happens is they are starting to lose viewers, and they become more and more crazy ass. This is Tucker Carlson. He goes to Israel. He stays at the airport. He won't leave the airport because he knows he's despised by Jews, Christians, Muslims, Druze, Arabs. Everybody in Israel hates his guts. And so he never leaves the airport. And now he tries to create a shiny object. He was detained, and his people were thrown into a room. And, of course, the Daily Mail, which is sort of schizophrenic. Every now and then they have good stories, but a lot of times real sleazeball reporting, in my humble opinion. It's leaked to them. And they run with these headlines like the National Enquirer. Now, as you know, my stepson works for the ambassador. He was appointed by President Trump. We're so proud of him, our entire family. He's such a mensch, smart, loyal, focused on his mission. He's not in charge. He works for the ambassador. He was not there at the discussion between the two. No inside information, nothing. I purposely try to protect him by keeping certain there is a wall between us, because he's come under vicious attack by the Jew haters, the Trump haters, by people who follow Carlson and others. And it makes me sick to my stomach. I never attack the kids of any one of these swine. Never, ever. And when they do that to my family, I unleash holy hell. And I will continue to do that as any real man, father, and husband would do. Now, he says that he was interrogated. The ambassador says, no, he wasn't. It's a typical interview, and in his case, he wasn't even interviewed. Their people were thrown into a room and interrogated. No, they weren't. The day before, it's all in the media. I don't have inside information. It's all in the media. The day before, his camera crew or audio or whatever they were questioned, as the Israelis always do. Why? Because they have a lot of terrorists to worry about. Whenever I've gone to Israel, they don't care who I am. They really don't. Before I get on the plane, he flew private, like Jeffrey Epstein. Wow. He flew on a private plane. I don't. We fly commercially. And before you get on that plane, you are questioned, usually 20, 30 questions, whether it's United or El Al or whatever it is. And that's why they're able to protect their passengers from hijackers and so forth. And when you land and you go through customs, they do the same thing. This is exactly what we should do in our country when people are coming into our country from foreign countries, especially from the Middle East. We don't do enough of it. We attack the TSA and customs and so forth. But he's created this shiny object now, how he was mistreated. He's a candy ass. You know that? He's a punk. I can't wait to hear this interview again. I have no information about this interview. I hope they release the whole thing. They don't edit it and chop it up. I can't wait to hear it. I wouldn't sit down with Tucker Carlson because I'd leap across the table, given what he has said about my family. I'll be right back. You know what Pure Talk's favorite holiday is? President's Day. Because they believe wireless service should only cost you a couple of presidents. Just a Jackson and a Lincoln, to be exact. For $25 a month, Pure Talk gives you unlimited talk, text, plenty of data. Now compare that to Big Wireless. They'd rather celebrate Benjamin Franklin Day so they can charge your family hundreds every month, and he wasn't even a president. That's not right. You deserve better. Pure Talk is an American wireless company that supports our veterans and invests in a U.S.-only customer service team. When you call, you're talking to someone right here at home. Pure Talk uses the same towers as the big carriers, so enjoy superior 5G coverage without the inflated price. Just $25 a month for talk, text, plenty of data, no contract, no cancellation fee. Don't wait any longer, folks. Go Go to puretalk.com/Levin, puretalk.com/Levin. You'll get 50% off your first month. Again, that's puretalk.com/Levin to make the switch to Pure Talk.
Defending the red, white, and blue. Join Mark Levin at 877-381-3811.
All right. Representative Moskowitz, I've met him. He's relatively moderate Democrat, Jared Moskowitz from Florida. But there's certain votes you really need to say yes and not vote with your party. Really, truly. I know it takes guts. Fetterman has guts. But you have to have the guts to stand up, particularly when it comes to something so sacred like the vote and the SAVE Act. And Maria Bartiromo today on Fox Business pressed Representative Moskowitz. Cut 9, go.
Are you going to vote yes for ID to vote?
I'm for photo ID. We have photo ID here in Florida. And so I have no problem with photo ID. We use photo ID here in Florida. It works very well. But that's somewhat different than what's being proposed. What's being proposed is a separate, completely different identification just for voting.
Completely different identification? Now, wait a minute. Because the SAVE Act, the Save America Act, is requiring voters to show ID to vote. And they also require a citizenship so that you stay with the law and, in fact, only have American citizens voting. So, again, will you vote yes to that act?
As far as, again, there's no evidence that non-citizens are voting.
All right, stop. There is evidence that some non-citizens are voting. Landmark Legal Foundation has found evidence. America First Legal has found evidence. We also have states that won't cleanse their voting rolls from dead people and illegal aliens and so forth. So let's say there's no evidence that non-citizens are voting. Is there evidence that people are voting twice? Is there evidence that people are voting for dead people? You mean there's no fraud whatsoever? No evidence of anything of any kind? Now that's ridiculous. Go ahead.
I don't know if you can say that. I don't know if you could say that, sir, because I think that there.
We can say that. Maria, there were 60 to 70 court cases over the 2020 election in which they made accusations that non-citizens were voting, and they lost all of those cases. So look, I'm for people using
Hey, I'm glad to hear it. So Congressman Moskowitz, nice guy, by the way, but so be it. I'm glad to know there's no evidence of voter fraud in the entire United States of America. None whatsoever. None. That's his position. There's no evidence of voter fraud. Whatever cases have been brought have been lost. There's no evidence of a single non-citizen ever voting. That's it. Case closed. So then why have photo IDs in Florida? And it works well, you say. What does that even mean? You don't need photo IDs in Florida if there's no fraud. If non-citizens aren't voting. And if whatever cases have been brought against people voting who shouldn't vote, they've all been lost. So why have even photographs? Go ahead.
And it is that American citizens vote in American elections. So having an ID to vote would be in step with the law. So are you going to vote for the law?
If they put forward a bill that says you can use your driver's license or your state-issued identification to vote, I support that.
Well, let me ask you something. Aren't there states that give driver's licenses to non-citizens, Mr. Producer? The answer is yes. There's cities that promote it. So a driver's license isn't enough, is it? This hostility towards a simple identification, and identifications are required in different ways to different degrees for 1,000 different things, is simply indefensible. It's absolutely indefensible. And, I just think there is corruption, which is why the Democrats defend this. Well, let me ask it this way. How do you even know if non-citizens are voting in these blue states, I think there are 10 or 11 of them that have no requirement for any identification whatsoever. In California, in Maryland, in Massachusetts, in New York. How do you even know? But why ask these questions? I understand. The pressure's just too much to stand against your party in a matter like this. This is basic stuff, though. This is basic stuff. It shouldn't be that difficult at all. This is Black History Month, and the president celebrated it with a number of individuals. It got some attention in the media, but very little. Why? Because many of the people attending Black History Month, the event at the White House today, were not radical leftists. They weren't running these organizations that essentially are an appendage to the Democrat Party. And here's what the president said in part. Cut 10, go.
Under the Trump administration, we believe that no community should be abandoned to the scourge of violent crime, and we're saving thousands and thousands of lives in many cities. And frankly, if these radical left lunatic Democrats would come and say, please help us, please, we'd stop crimes all over the place. And we're doing it in a lot of cities. Sometimes we have to force ourselves upon them because they're so bad. And I don't even think they realize what's happening to their cities and their towns. But every town that we go in, every city that we go in, like Washington, Felicia, you feel much safer now. Totally safe. You can walk to a restaurant. The restaurants were all closing. Now you can't get a restaurant. The bad news is you can't get into a restaurant. But it's a great thing to see what's happening in Washington. It's like it's a hot place, and hopefully people will be coming in record numbers. And it's been, well, I know we need a little help. You need help in Atlanta. He just said, you're right, Atlanta, we could take care of Atlanta. I'll tell you what, you ought to get them to call me. We could take care of Atlanta so fast.
Those are real people applauding, not political hacks. Cut 11, go.
Another way that we're fulfilling our duty to the next generation is the single biggest thing that's happened having to do with schools and education. It's called school choice in our great, big, beautiful bill. Our beautiful bill, which really covers 4 years. We put it all together. That's why we call it the great, big, beautiful bill. This will help millions of African-American children and ensure that no child is condemned to a failing government or a horrible school.
You know, ladies and gentlemen, I had a life before radio. And one of the things I did, and I did with the wonderful patriot lawyers at Landmark Legal Foundation, Pete and Mike and Matt and others, along with really one other legal foundation, we litigated this issue of school choice. It began in Milwaukee, Wisconsin under Governor Thompson, who's no longer with us, the governor of the state. And we litigated on behalf of a black liberal state representative and her constituents in the poorest part of Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And it was an idea that was hatched by the great, late Dr. Milton Friedman, school choice. And it was a way to provide an option to inner city kids, primarily minority kids, primarily black kids, to get out of these crime-ridden, union-controlled buildings and go where they could actually get an education. And the data was demonstrating that they were not getting educated in these dilapidated, crime-filled, union-controlled, government-run school buildings. And the idea is that the money, instead, a certain amount of money would follow the student. And the student, obviously with the parent or parents' input, could pick among certain schools that they could attend. And not just government schools, perhaps private schools that would participate in the program and other types of competing schools that didn't have the same problems. And the Democrats fought us tooth and nail, boy. And they had their lawyers out, the NEA, the AFT. the state affiliates, even the NAACP, all of them. And we had a delegate, state delegate, Polly Williams was her name. What a wonderful lady. Obviously a black woman, just a wonderful lady. We took them on. We went to the Supreme Court of Wisconsin twice. This went on for years, and we won. We went to the United States Supreme Court twice, and we won. And not just me, others. And without those victories, and without these heroes, and without these great colleagues of mine, there would be no school choice. There would be no school choice. And now there is, one of the greatest civil rights victories in modern times. The education of minority children. And now it has expanded. It's not necessarily based solely on minority status, and shouldn't be. It's based on income status. There's a lot of poor kids of all backgrounds and all colors who are getting crappy educations. They're stuck in these schools. Imagine being forced to buy food at the same grocery store, whether you like it or not. Well, it's a little bit more important, I think, to get your kids an education so they have a leg up when they become adults, so they have a shot. That's probably one of the things I am most proud of, and proud of Landmark Legal Foundation and some of the others that participated in this. I've mentioned it every 5 years or so, but people don't really remember, do they, Mr. Producer? Very, very important. And the president has seized on it like no president ever. Barack Obama blocked it. He allowed school choice for his own kids, but he literally blocked it in the District of Columbia. And the program that existed before he became president, he defunded. That's what he did. And Trump breathed life back into it when he became president. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
You know what Pure Talk's favorite holiday is? President's Day. Because they believe wireless service should only cost you a couple of presidents. Just a Jackson and a Lincoln, to be exact. For $25 a month, Pure Talk gives you unlimited talk, text, plenty of data. Now compare that to Big Wireless. They'd rather celebrate Benjamin Franklin Day so they can charge your family hundreds every month, and he wasn't even a president. That's not right. You deserve better. Pure Talk is an American wireless company that supports our veterans and invests in a U.S.-only customer service team. When you call, you're talking to someone right here at home. Pure Talk uses the same towers as the big carriers, so enjoy superior 5G coverage without the inflated price. Just $25 a month for talk, text, plenty of data, no contract, no cancellation fee. Don't wait any longer, folks. Go to puretalk.com/Levin, puretalk.com/Levin. You'll get 50% off your first month. Again, that's puretalk.com/Levin to make the switch to Pure Talk. Check out one of the hottest, most talked about new video casts. They call them vidcasts, I think. But they're video podcasts that we launched 48 hours ago. And we have a fantastic program for you this evening. Launches at noon Eastern time every day. Not every day. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday normally, but this week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And it is my discussion about Rush Limbaugh, things that you probably didn't know about him and he and I, because he passed away 5 years ago yesterday. And also the military that is amassing in Iran, and I am convinced now more than ever that will be used to attack that evil, vile, genocidal, inhumane regime. And I think you're going to be very much impressed with it, at least enjoy it, and learn a ton from it. And tomorrow, my video podcast, I'm already doing my research on it. Some things I already know, but I want to every day, every other day, every third day. I want to pull us back in the 250th anniversary of this fantastic country. So the more of you who participate by viewing it, and the more who you encourage to participate, the more we will build this movement for the midterm elections and beyond in support of our fantastic country. Just remember, at YouTube, you can subscribe to Liberty's Voice. At Rumble, where we're really doing great, you can follow us at Mark Levin Show. We'll be right back.
He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Hello, America. Mark Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. Let me see if we have this here. Caitlin Collins at the Constipated News Network is horrendous. She used to work for Tucker Carlson over at the Daily Caller. Did you know that, Mr. Producer? But there she is, and they love her over at the Constipated News Network and elsewhere. She's very biased, and I might say very angry and nasty. But she's on the Late Show. Now, nobody watches these Late Shows. Colbert's going away like he should. He's a freak, a fraud, and a phony. And he's got that Dr. Spock look going on there. Mr. Spock, excuse me. And so here she's on with Colbert. You know, Colbert has never invited me on his show, has he, Mr. Producer? In fact, none of those guys have. I'm not saying I would go, but I'm not even invited. Let's listen to this. Cut 18, go.
Back in November, the president suggested that FCC Chair Brendan Carr look into ABC's broadcasting license after Mary Bruce asked questions that he didn't like.
Yeah.
And
by the way, who is Mary Bruce? An ABC reporter? Go ahead.
Trump's apparent weaponizing of the FCC.
I think it's something that the president, we didn't see him do as much in his first term. It's a way that he's wielding his power so differently in this second term. I think
I think that sort of the chains are off.
Yeah, ever since Brendan Carr, was in this position, I don't think anything that he's done is really that surprising if you've been covering Trump and paying attention. And so I think, the question is how far he goes on his...
Hello. When they talk fast, you got to raise your eyebrows here. I don't know. Did Colbert ask any questions when George Soros bought all those radio stations, over 200 of them? Did he say anything? I'm just curious about that. Where they cut the corners? Where they didn't go through the review process? Where the FCC, controlled by the Democrats, got it through before the election? Anybody remember that? I remember that. Does anybody else remember that? Oh, yeah. I remember that. Go ahead.
Does he follow through? Does he even need to follow through, or does just making the threat in and of itself already cause the action?
For instance, if you threaten the network, and then they might just do it for you without actually,
And what has happened to ABC News? Has the FCC done anything to ABC News? No, they have not. Even the threat, quote unquote. Anybody do anything? No, they didn't do anything. So this is a non-issue, but they say it anyway. As I seem to recall, it was the Biden regime that had the Disinformation Committee, where they were going after news outlets, going after individuals, using social media to try and shut down speech. You remember that? I remember that. I remember that. Go ahead.
A ruling of any kind.
And I think it's actually a really slippery
There's the
slope.
clapping seals. There's the clapping seals. Yay! And by the way, they have a sign there that blinks. Applause, applause, applause. How come we don't have one of those, Mr. Producer? Because we don't have an audience. Who's going to applause? I mean an in-room audience. Hey, there's the applause line. I think I'll clap for myself. Anyway, go ahead.
I think that you've seen some people on the right cheering this.
Let me ask you something. What's her name? Collins, let me ask you something. Everybody knows that this creep you're talking to is a radical left-wing Democrat dressed up as a comic. And he's not funny, despite the fact he has 412 comedy writers. And he doesn't make any money. He takes money, so they removed him. And then, of course, he said that's because of his political views. So why are you on there with a leftist? Agreeing with a leftist if you're not a leftist? Answer that one. I'd love to hear your answer to that one. Go ahead.
Well, that's what we want Brendan Carr to do. I think that they don't want a Democratic administration saying that right-wing talk radio must give equal time to Democrats or to see that moment.
I don't think they do. They've tried over and over again. They've tried to destroy this program and the whole industry. I just talked about Soros. And I don't remember Collins or CNN or Colbert or any of these lefty loons speaking out when they went after Rush Limbaugh and conservative talk radio, or me from time to time, but they really took after Rush. Does anybody remember that? I don't remember them defending free speech and all the rest of it, because they don't. They're frauds and phonies. And that's the truth. Then we have Emmanuel Macron in India. Now, Candace Owens insists that Macron's wife has a Wiener Schnitzel. Is that correct, Mr. Producer? And she's been sued, has Candace Owens. But Candace still insists that Macron's wife has a Wiener Schnitzel. And I think that got her about 400,000 viewers. If you want weird and stupid and cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, if you want insane lunacy, bigot, racist, anti-Semite, a UFO, well then, she's your gal. I assume she's a gal. You're a gal, right, Candace? But anyway, I would never assume Candace was not. Would you, Mr. Producer? Not in the least. Anyway, here's Emmanuel Macron, who's a quisling, who's a disaster, which is why he is in charge of France. Cut 17, go.
We don't ask for regulation by itself. We don't want the IP. But we say, just should make it transparent.
You know what? No offense. He sounds like a bad maitre d', doesn't he, Mr. Producer? Were you saying, what? Speak English. Anyway, go ahead.
For the free speech. Some of them claim to be in favor of free speech. Okay, we are in favor of free algorithm. Totally transparent.
How's he talking about?
Because, free speech is a pure bull. If nobody knows how you are guided through this so-called free speech, especially when it's to be guided from one hated speech to another hated speech.
Mm-hmm. Whatever he said. I don't know what the hell he's saying. And I usually like the French accent, but his accent I don't like at all. I don't know what it is. Maybe Candace is right. Is that possible, Mr. Producer? No, it's not. She's never right. She's a nut. We call it a nut. That's right. By the way, I want to congratulate the Democrats in Maryland, the Democrats in D.C., the Democrats in Northern Virginia. All their crap is flowing into the Potomac River. That's right. There's Democrat human feces, because that's where they live. They live around the Potomac, don't they, honey?
Absolutely.
Yes, they live around the Potomac River, right?
They do.
Now, we live on the Potomac River, but far away from where all the fecal matter is spreading, correct?
For the moment.
For the moment, that's right. Now, all you folks, the Chesapeake Bay area, we had a great caller yesterday, some of the other rivers, and then eventually the Atlantic, the East Coast, you're going to get to participate in Democrats' fecal matter because there's a very concentrated population of Democrats in this part of the Potomac River. And they're crapping away, and you got this 6-foot big pipe. And their crap is going out the pipe into nature. It's the Democrats. You know, the basic things like Newsom, can't get water in a fire hydrant. And the Democrats, they can't stop their own crap from going into the Potomac River. You know, they used to say, don't fish downstream from the you-know-what. And now everybody's saying they think it's funny. Well, when we celebrate July 4th and we do it at the White House and it's along the Potomac River, what happens? If it stinks from Democrat fecal matter, that's not going to be pleasant. That's not going to be pleasant at all. I don't even like thinking about it, honey. Do you? I mean, people take these boat rides where they have meals, a slow boat ride. They're very romantic. They have a little wine. I don't drink, of course. They have a little wine. They have food. You know, you take your wife, the wife takes the husband, and you're sitting on the boat. You're looking at the beautiful Potomac, and now you're going to smell crap. In fact, it's so sick. There could be piles of this stuff, mounds of this stuff. My wife's telling me to cut it out, Mr. Producer. But I just want people to understand this is what Democrat governorship, governorship looks like. This is what it looks like. This is what it smells like. So if you want water, vote Republican. If you want clean water and a working sewage system, vote Republican. And all you lucky people in New York who voted for Mondami, I feel bad for the 49% who didn't. You get dragged into that sewer. Is it affordable now that he wants to raise your property taxes by 10%? Affordability, says the Marxist Islamist. Affordability. One of the biggest expenses you have as a working middle-class family are your property taxes on your single-family home, on your townhouse, on your condo. And you renters, I'm a renter. I'm not affected. Yes, you are. You think the landlord can eat this? He's going to pass it on to the renters. Yes, affordability, America. These blue states are utterly unaffordable. That's why people are leaving as fast as they can. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Don't forget, next Tuesday's the State of the Union speech. When the Democrats give it, it's the State of Confusion speech. Nonetheless, back to this issue, the Potomac River, it's no joke. It's no joke. The Democrats can't fix the pipe. They've shut down FEMA, so FEMA can help to a point, but its employees aren't getting paid because they're so busy representing illegal aliens, trying to get them to become voters. And yet the Democrats, I'm talking about, quite frankly, Democrats who live along the Potomac River, they're too stupid to understand what's happening to them. And now they're going to smell their own crap. And that's grotesque, isn't it, Mr. Producer? Problem is the rest of us will, too. Caroline Levitt, the great press secretary, at a briefing today, asked a very pertinent question by Peter Doocy. Cut 15, go.
To your point about that, there are a lot of events coming up for America 250. The president wants people from all over to come to the nation's capital. Is he worried that by the summer, the Potomac River will still smell like poop?
He is worried about that, which is why the federal government wants to fix it, and we hope that the local authorities will cooperate with us in doing so.
Don't hold your breath. Well, maybe do hold your breath, actually. The local authorities. The local authorities. They've done a fantastic job. The local authorities. Fairfax County, Virginia, run by a bunch of morons. That's right, I said it. Alexandria, Virginia, Old Town. That's going to get old fast. I used to love Old Town. Oh, I loved Old Town. It's still very nice, as long as you ignore the liberals. Mr. Producer, when I'm early for a flight or a flight is late, and I'm sitting at the airport and I'm watching people walk by, I play a game. Sometimes with my wife, sometimes by myself. And you know what it is? Spot the liberal. It's typically easy, although I had a dear friend, Teddy, who was as conservative as can be. Unfortunately, he passed away, and we miss him dearly. And he had very long hair, and he looked like a hippie, really great guy, played the guitar. But a right-winger, a patriotic American. So there are exceptions, but they are exceptions. But I can spot them a mile away. Now you're going to be able to smell them a mile away. But you got Old Town Virginia. And it's very pricey because it's beautiful. There's not a lot of real estate there. The closer you are to the river, the more you pay. They have an old torpedo factory there that they've turned into sort of an artsy you-know-what type place, which is very nice, by the way. They have nice restaurants there. But, ladies and gentlemen, you're going to get that stench, that Democrat stench coming from the river. You're not going to want to go there. In fact, you'll be heading for West Virginia, and I don't blame you. Beautiful West Virginia where they have casinos and mountains and lakes and fishing. You're going to get as far away as you can. Now, as I said, you heard me with my wife. We have a home in Virginia. It's on the Potomac River. It's not on that part of the Potomac River. We go against the current. The current takes it through all these sort of liberal towns and so forth. But you know where else it goes? Right past Mount Vernon. Can you believe that? Right past Mount Vernon. Washington's home. Now, the Democrats want more government, more bureaucracy, more money. I just sneezed to the truth. They want to run everything. They want to control everything. But they can't get the water to work in California, and homes are burning down, and the firefighters go to the hydrant and say, what the hell, there's no water. And in the nation's capital, they can't control the sewage. They're literally destroying all the vegetation and wildlife in and along the Potomac River. They can't figure out how to stop it. But they want to control more. We want to be in charge of health care. Oh, my God. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? The government in charge of health care? That's right. We want to control the hospitals, the doctors, the pharmaceutical companies. By the way, I'm sorry, count me out. I like pharmaceutical companies. Mr. Producer, do you take medicines? Well, you will one day. I take them for my heart and so forth. What would I do without pharmaceutical? Oh, they rip us off. No, they don't. No, they don't. A lot of people get freebies. And if you can demonstrate that you don't have a real income, that you're poor, or that you can't afford a particular drug, the pharmaceutical companies spend billions of dollars a year providing free medicines. Maybe you don't know that, but every time I go to my pharmacy at a giant food store near here, I guess it's kind of regional, but nonetheless, I mean, I'm walking out, I got this one and this one here, this one, runny nose, this one, a scratch on your, this one and this, and you take it. How much do I owe you? $23. No other place on the face of the planet. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin, radio's hell-raising intellectual. Call now, 877-381-3811.
I'm reading this from X, formerly known as Twitter. A gentleman by the name of Max Twain, who's been pretty good. Rumors are swirling from sources close to Tucker Carlson that he planted this false story in the Daily Mail about his treatment by the Israelis, which was actually, he was treated extraordinarily well, as a pretense not to show the full uncut interview with U.S. Ambassador to Israel, Huckabee. Carlton staffers have indicated the beleaguered podcast host was crushed, quote-unquote, in the exchange. So we have Bannon, who's covering up the videos that he produced with Jeffrey Epstein, and let us hope that Tucker Carlson, as I read this, releases the entire interview with Ambassador Huckabee. We can handle it, can't we, Mr. and Mrs. America? And after all, the grifter will get more hits than ever before. But he should release the entire thing. No edits. Uncut. Release it. Then we have this fool, Ro Khanna, this clown, a representative from California. He says Trump officials say there's a 90% chance of strikes on Iran. He means reports. He can't without Congress. And how is that? How is that? You see, Ro Khanna is not very sharp. He's not very intelligent. He went to the House floor and he smeared 4 citizens who were actually working with law enforcement against Epstein. He should have resigned, should be expelled, but he's done neither. He's back at it. And he's partnering with Thomas Massie, the libertarian crackpot. He says, I have a war powers resolution to debate and vote on before putting U.S. troops in harm's way. This guy pretends to be a constitutionalist. The war powers resolution is unconstitutional in every respect. But don't tell Thomas Massie. And Ro Khanna is just there to, of course, sabotage our military. I guess they don't remember the Vietnam War, do they, Mr. Producer? The Korean War? I guess they don't remember anything. But that said, our enemies have so many supporters in this country. Ro Khanna, whatever. Thomas Massie, Carlson, Bloated Bannon, No Pants Gates, Marjorie Trader Green. I got to come up with a really good name for Kelly. I don't like the nickname so far. How about F.U. Kelly? Can I say that, Mr. Producer? That's her favorite word. She uses that word as a noun. She uses that word as a verb. She uses that word as a pronoun. She uses that word as a... She just uses it over and over again. Hyphenated. Pretty sick when you think about it. She's got young kids, relatively young teenagers. Would your mother have ever spoken that way, Mr. Producer? Publicly? No way. I never heard my mother use that word. But even if somebody uses the word, maybe they'll do it in a fit of anger, they'll do it once in a while. If you are literally putting out a video, edited, you've got producers, you got direct, whatever she has, they pay her a ton of money for all that makeup, the fake hair. I don't have to worry about fake hair. The clothing, the studio, the production, and all the rest of it. She's got her own satellite channel. Are they proud when she's dropping F-bombs all over the place? Let me ask you guys, do you want to be near a woman who talks like a drunken sailor? I don't think so. But what is that? I'm trying to help her, actually. She will view it as an attack. She views everything as an attack. A little bit paranoid, I would say. But no. Megan, cut it out. You know it's not good. You know you can do better than that. Just cut it out. You're embarrassing everybody around you. You're embarrassing all of us. Oh, they'll come back. Look at your small numbers on your podcast. We're just getting started. And we will get bigger and bigger and bigger. And then, as I said at the beginning, we'll take our podcast numbers, our radio numbers, our TV numbers. These people get in battles with me and they don't know what hit them because they don't understand you in radio land. There's millions and millions of you. In fact, there's so many of you, you're not even, They can't even count you accurately. They've got a weird rating system that they changed from what they call diaries and books, which were, in my humble opinion, way more accurate. But that's okay. When you Levinites are so loyal and patriotic, when you decide you want to unleash on somebody, oh, hell hath no fury like a Levinite pissed off. I'm just saying. It's true. The power, your power in this audience, time and again reveals itself. Now, we don't overdo it. Just when we need to do it. Like with reprobates, miscreants, and malcontents. Or on particularly horrendous policy issues or legislation. Oh, you're all boomers. You're all old ladies and old men. Don't you love it when you hear some punk who's 22, 23 years old say that or post that? And I think to myself, you know what, moron, that iPhone you have, who do you think produced that? In fact, who do you think produced everything that you have? The boomers. And beyond. Generations even older. Who do you think pays for your damn college? Ooh, that's a good one, don't you think, Rich? But they don't speak for all Gen Z. Just for the potheads, the miscreants, the bigots, and the rest of them. Because we all know the internet is a cesspool with some exceptions. It very much is. All right, what do I owe you, sir? All right. Now, by tomorrow this time, I should have my laptop back. And so I have to move from email to email, ladies and gentlemen. I can't even print off this thing. Let's see here. Give me 1 second. I'm working on it. Hold on. Somebody just wrote me. Why can't I, honey? Text me, email me again. Why can't I? Because I use it for Fatties United, F you? Well, there is truth to that. Actually. Okay, here we are. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
I can't believe the show's over already. You're going to love tonight's video podcast, folks. And there I am, relaxed Mr. Producer, sitting there talking about things. It's a totally different environment. I love all these environments. Talk radio, #1, but our Fox show, and now our brand new video podcast. Again, the whole point is to raise the audience, the viewership on all the platforms, bring them together. I'm uniquely positioned to do this, given the size of the radio program and our ratings on Fox and so forth, where one platform strengthens another. And I want you to participate in this, folks. I very much want you to participate in this. So, if you like Rumble, we love Rumble. We love the owner there, Chris, our buddy Dan Bongino. Rumble, you can follow at Mark Levin Show. Follow us on Rumble, but view the program. Take a look at it. If you prefer YouTube, you can go to YouTube. Liberty's Voice, you can subscribe there. Again, take a look at it. We're going to expand to Apple and Spotify and some of the others. TikTok, now that it's American-owned, but we want to, as they say, crawl before you walk, walk before you run, and don't fall off the cliff. And we don't have to change what we do, maybe approach it differently. So you're not going to see a Mark Levin who's a podcaster versus a Mark Levin who's a radio host versus Mark Levin who's a TV host. You're not going to see a Mark Levin that uses the language of a drunken sailor, as we used to say. That's not going to happen. You're not going to see me platforming the most loathsome people crawling on the face of the planet to get numbers. None of that's going to happen. These are the tricks of the trade, apparently. If you really want to jack up your numbers, you just say the most disgusting things possible, have on the most disgusting people possible, or you bring on big names, really big names. Maybe you bring on the president or vice president, something like that. I've decided, at least for now, no guests. We'll eventually get to that. But I don't want to start a project like this and just start throwing guests at you. No, we're not going to do that either. At some point, we'll have some. But it's 45 minutes, 3 days a week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, except this week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, since Monday was a holiday. And so check out today's program. I think you're going to like it. You're going to learn some things about Rush and me that you clearly didn't know because I never mentioned them before. As well as the military buildup in Iran. We go through some of that, which is important because I think it's coming now. And then tomorrow's program, I can tell you right now, I'm thinking about it, been taking notes. We're going to dig deeply into history again and have some fun on the 250th anniversary. So we can move around. We're flexible, but we do have certain basic, standards, principles that I want to address on a regular basis. But you got to join us if we're going to do it. You've got to join us, and there's no cost, no subscription fee, nothing. On YouTube and Rumble, Liberty's Voice on YouTube, the Mark Levin Show on Rumble, and there you are. You're set. And I want to thank you, and I want to thank you for listening to this program right here. I got 30 seconds left. All right, don't be left behind. When you leave my program, go ahead and sign up. It's simple for Liberty's Voice. We're having a lot of fun. I want you to participate and enjoy it and share it. We salute our armed forces, police officers, firefighters, emergency personnel, our truckers, the men and women in Ukraine, the men and women in Israel, the men and women in Iran. We are coming for Khomeini. Get Khomeini. I'll see you tomorrow. God bless.